Hello, everybody. Thank you so much for having me here today. I'm really excited to be here virtually with you to rekindle your spark and how to use the science of anti-fragility to re-energize yourself. And never before have I been so excited to share this message, all this information that I love spending my time cultivating for you so you can live an awesome life. So you've probably heard my bio. So I started out as a crit care nurse. I actually trained at St Vincent's Hospital. I was Feb 87 for anybody who still did it in the old way, trained by nuns. And it was probably in the mid 2008, I became a psychologist. And since then, I've been doing coaching and training as well as one-to-one counselling. And I still do 1 day a week of counselling, which I really like because it keeps me current. But I have been called a healthcare insider because I get to hear all the stories about what's happening and I get to help people like you, which really excites me because I was like you. And in a way, I am exactly like you because I have to work on all the things that I'm going to be talking about today to rekindle my own spark. My energy drains down from time to time as well. So you're not alone. So thank you so much for generously allowing me to videotape this virtually with you. I'm devastated I can't be there. So what I'm wanting to do is I want to offer a group coaching session, and it's going to be on the 20th of June. You'll be getting an invite around that. So I've only got 45 minutes today. I've got so much to share with you. So today, as we go through, I'm going to be pointing towards things that actually we're going to be talking about that in the coaching/training call on the 20th of June. So as we're going through today, I'd like you to fill out, this isn't your worksheet, but just to symbolize that you have a worksheet there. You'll have some QR codes to get, and I'll point you towards some documents that you can get hold of as well, so we're not killing too many trees at this conference. For people who fill it out and say things that they've got out of it, when it's question time, usually question time at the end, but it's really just giveaway time. The amazing organisers are going to be giving away some of my books. So fill your worksheet out because it's going to help you embed the knowledge in your brain, but you're also going to get a copy of my book for those lucky ones, Transformational Nurse Identities, which is a nurse leadership book written by a nurse, but also a psychologist who does this for a living. So I know this is tried and tested. I'm really excited to get it into some of your hands today. So let's dive in. I love Albert Einstein. I love science. I'm sure you all love science as well. And he said you can't solve a problem at the level in which it's created. Now, the environment at the moment, there's chaos. There's a lack of resources in nursing. Nurses are never before seen this level of low staffing and low morale. People are leaving. Nurses are like nursing in droves, especially just past COVID. We had a lot of middle managers leave. People retired early. I mean, what's that about? People got tired. So that's the environment that we're in. And now what it is, it's a call for us to evolve and to us to operate at the higher level above the environment. That's what today is. That's what anti-fragility is. It's a call for you for higher duties. Fun, hey? So we're going to do that in 4 ways. Awareness is where we're starting. Then we embrace the new science. We regulate yourself, and then we deactivate. So let's start with awareness, where you are right now. Like when you're setting a GPS, you have to know where you're starting from. So let's plot the course. So as I said, we're living in this environment of chaos that's just draining our energy consistently. And we can call this VUCA world. This term was coined in the 1990s by the Defence Force. Volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous. And we know when we're operating in an environment like this, we have to think, we have to lead ourselves in a certain way to rise above. But what other things are we experiencing? We're experiencing war, high interest rates, environmental issues. And as a nurse, you're understaffed, you're low resourced, nurses are complaining they're unappreciated. And we've got a poor skill mix sometimes in some places, which puts a lot of pressure on people. Now, when we think also about what's happening inside us, besides getting all this pressure and stress, we have mental and emotional fatigue. People are more tired than ever. They're going to GPs more than ever. I can't sleep. I'm stressed. I need some time off. I think I'm getting burnt out. At a lot of leadership programs I run, I ask hands up who is feeling burnt out or has had a conversation about burnout in the last week. And I would say 90% of people put their hand up. This is what's happening. And I don't need to tell you that. The other thing is nurses have more choice than ever before. You probably don't think that you do, but you do. And what choice does, it brings indecision. And where indecision is a drain of energy. So anybody straight away, this is an intervention right now. If you are indecision, try and make one choice. Even if it's a small choice, you'll feel better. And all you need to do is adjust yourself along the way. Start to think about, is this working? Should I go to plan B, or will I just keep going and just focus on one foot in front of the other? You'll re-energize straight away. The other thing that is we are in an era of distraction. And what this does, it uses up your dopamine when you're scrolling on your phone. You get a quick win. And when you get a quick win, it means that you don't have the energy and the motivation to do the bigger jobs. You don't have the motivation to go to the gym or go for a walk or do something that's good for you. You reach for low energy, like a high energy snacks that probably aren't good for you. And this is because you're utilizing your dopamine by this low hanging fruit. Now, I don't blame you. I do it myself. I go for the low hanging fruit of wine, Netflix, and scrolling myself. But just so you're aware, this is a big drain, and I'm seeing it in my one-to-one sessions still as a psychologist. Another thing is separation. Never have we felt so alone. And even in our team, we can feel very lonely. And what I'm noticing just recently, and it's good to name this is what we're doing. We're getting awareness. We're naming some of the issues, is people are frustrated because there's an intergenerational thing now where all the different generations are wanting different things, and that there's a conflict of values here about how people want to work and how nurses think we should be working. And when we push up against something that is what we think is wrong, it's like saying, oh, I don't want this to be a wall. I don't want this to be a camera. And we're fighting it, and that uses energy as well. So naming something is really good. So what stress brains do is they get hijacked. We think clearly from this prefrontal cortex here, this amazing part of us that has got us surviving so beautifully. And we get caught in this limbic response. And when we get caught in this limbic response at work, we have this thing called us-them. Now, Robert Sapolsky, he is a biologist from Stanford. He has done amazing research with animals. And he loves the Planet of the Apes. So his friend asked him to come on to the set on Planet of the Apes, and Robert got to go in at lunchtime. So he came in at lunchtime, all excited to meet some of the actors. And what he noticed was really curious. He noticed that the apes sat together, or those who played the apes, and those who were the humans sat together as well. I mean, how crazy is that? And he started to get this theory about us and them. And he's got this article that's actually called Us and Them, and it's also Why We Hate Each Other. So when we're stressed, we, instead of coming together, we often try to get a team. We try to feel safe around people that are like us, and we get cliques. And this is a huge drain, because what happens is we start pointing the fingers at other people, and we will do it ourselves. We'll be blaming the system. We'll be blaming management. We'll be blaming the junior nurses. We'll be blaming the different generation. And it's a big smokescreen. It's an illusion, because we're not taking responsibility. But this is what a stressed brain does. I'm getting you aware of this now. This is what a stressed brain does. So emotional intelligence is what we're talking about today. So when you're getting aware of yourself, you're operating in the first part of emotional intelligence. Now, I should back up a bit, actually. Emotional intelligence was made sexy by Daniel Goleman in the 1990s when he wrote the groundbreaking book, Why Emotional Intelligence is More Important for Success Than IQ. And that really shook people, because we do know, and there's tons and tons of research with quality of life, with efficacy in nursing leadership. If a leader has, or a person has high emotional intelligence, they're going to do better in life and they're going to get better outcomes. And everything we're talking about today, rekindling the spark, is all emotional intelligence. So that's really good news for you. So the first one aspect is gathering information, right? So that's the awareness part. So awareness of yourself and the awareness of other people. But there's another part is, okay, we've got this information. What are we going to do with it? So how are we going to manage ourselves? How are we going to manage our motivation, which is a part of emotional intelligence? And a motivation really is a motive for action, our reason to act. It's our energy to do things, basically, which is all about today. And the other part is, okay, the data I picked up on somebody else, what am I going to do about it? How am I going to manage them? How am I going to communicate to them? How am I going to adjust myself to have a better relationship and get the better outcomes? That's emotional intelligence, and it's everything what we're talking about today. Now, one thing that people think is that emotional intelligence is just about relationships. But when I see people burnt out, when I do nurse leader inventories around emotional intelligence, is they've got very low self-awareness and other awarenesses because they just don't want to see what's happening to themselves or to other people. So they block it out. If you want to get success, you need to manage your energy. So you need to be aware of where your battery's sitting. So I'd like you now just to unconsciously get a little bit of a reading about what's happening in your body. You do that by using different sorts of senses, not the senses you got in your eyes and your ears and by touch. It's by just connecting to what's happening inside. Like, okay, so where have I got some tightening somewhere? Have I got some butterflies? And just give yourself, if you think of your whole body as a battery, I'd like you to give yourself a number out of 10 now. So just connecting, give yourself a number out of 10, just getting aware, using those other senses. And if you're a leader, this is really important, because nowhere on the planet of the earth has an unengaged leader had an engaged team. You have to lead with your energy first. So if you're a leader, check your energy, check your engagement. Are you bringing it? And if not, you have to do the things that we're talking about today. So as a psychologist, I've got so many like crushes on other psychologists and the research they do. And there's a guy called Dr. Rick Hanson, and he has this really cool metaphor that I love using. And it's thinking about feelings that we have, that they're either like Velcro or Teflon. So negative thoughts are like Velcro, they stick. But positive thoughts, have you noticed? They're like Teflon. So just think about the end of the day, you're walking to the car and there's been 10 amazing things that have happened. If you're a team leader, clinical team leader, the team might have come well together, got some really great feedback from some doctors and some patients. You've had somebody come up to you and say, wow, you did a really great job leading today. Thank you so much. You've really made it easy for me. So all these really great things happen, but then one thing goes wrong. Somebody makes a complaint, or somebody said, oh, blah, blah, didn't like the way you said something the other day. And that's all you can think about. That's the Teflon. And all the other stuff just slides off. This is important to know. So it's an intervention to say, oh, I'm wondering, I'm just noticing that this has been happening to me today. And that can actually help you with perspective. So 3 years ago during COVID, nobody could travel. How can we spend our money? I ordered a car, and this is my beautiful yellow hybrid Toyota CHR. Very proud, very excited, my first new car. And why I love this card, besides the yellow, look at my big cheesy grin, is I love looking at the screen that shows me how full my battery is. So I can see as I'm driving along that my battery fills up. And to me, this is better. Like, I've got the knowledge, right, that as I drive, my battery fills up because it's hybrid. But seeing it is so different. And strengths, your strengths, are the same. You have to name them. You have to be aware of them so that they're more likely to stick. We know from research, there's actually between 5 and 7, it's been touted to say, that you need positive things to negative. That's in success in a team or inside yourself. And when you think about all the negative things that you say to yourself, I think it's pretty important to think, how can I enhance, by being aware of my strengths, of my values, and doing things that I love, how can that enhance my quality of life? Just by being aware, just by noticing. So, for example, just noticing how you feel after you go for a walk. This week, I've gone for a walk every day, and my energy levels have been sky high. I'm feeling better about myself, and this is an affirmation. So I deliberately enhance the feeling of that by just sitting with the feeling, just savoring. And what that does, because our mind is like a magnifier, it enhances the good feeling, which will give us more energy and more spark. You have to know what you like doing. You have to know what makes your heart sing. It may not be something at work, but it may be something that you can do after work. Do you like weaving earrings? Do you like going to the paint and sip classes? What do you like to do? Do you like gardening? Do you like cooking? Do some more of it. Don't put yourself last. You have to do more of it. And make a list of all the things that you do. I have people and they come to me, Michelle, I want more confidence. And then I ask them, okay, so tell me about a few different things that you did today that you're really proud of and that you're pleased about. And they tell me nothing. They can't even think of anything. So then their homework is to start to list all the things that they like about themselves every day, and what particular actions were they proud about what they did. So these are, like, I would call them micro actions. It could even be, I'm glad that I made time for somebody, or I'm even glad that I said, no, I can't talk to you at the moment. Can we have a chat later because you're wanting to practice boundaries? So lots of little micro decisions that you make. Might be having a breath before you're going to explode at somebody. They're the types of things that I'd like you to notice, to be aware of, and remember, whatever you're aware of expands. There's lots of research around this. So, as I've alluded to, people think that awareness is just getting information, but awareness is a tool to magnify. So have you ever sat opposite someone and they've got a pimple, and you say to yourself, don't look at the pimple, don't look at the pimple, don't look at the pimple, but all you can do is just look at it, and you're just like dreading, you go, oh my God, my eyes gave me away, like they just darted to have a look at this pimple. And because you've been trying to get this poker face. It's because whatever we make important expands as well. Whatever we pay attention to or tell us, like even that's an instruction, don't look at the pimple. The instruction is at the end, look at the pimple. It's like we don't say to ourselves, or a kid when they're running with a knife, don't run with the knife. You say, walking slowly now, hand the knife to me. Do you know what I mean? Like at netball, we never used to say, we used to sort of just laugh. Someone says, stop stepping. But really, you're just giving somebody an instruction at netball to step. Think about what you're saying to yourself, thinking about the commands that you're giving to yourself and what you're paying attention to, because it magnifies. Now, I'm about to give you a bit of a spider alert now, because we're still in awareness, and there's going to be a picture of a spider up in a sec. So there was this study with anxious people, and let's just pretend they've just got a spider in like a terrarium, like a little glass enclosure. And what they did is they put sweat little sensors on them, heart rate monitors, all the things. And then they walk up towards the spider, and they measured, these experimenters measured how close they got and what was happening in their physical body. So after that all happened, they put them into 3 groups and they brought them back the next day. But before they went home, the first group got asked about their experience and say, that's just a feeling, or that's just a feeling of anxiety. The second group got asked to say, the spider's in a cage and it can't hurt me. I don't need to be afraid. And the third group said abracadabra or something equally irrelevant to the spider. And actually there was a fourth group as well, I forgot. And they were just exposed. They were the control group, so they got told no, they had no instructions. Okay, so we had the first group is name the feeling. The second one, spiders in a cage can't hurt me. Third one says abracadabra or some sort of magical thing to the spider. And the fourth one, there was no instructions. So which do you think the next day when they re-exposed them to the spider had the best results? They had less anxiety. Which group do you think? Have a little think. Those who said this spider's in a cage and can't hurt me, I said the same thing. This is ridiculous. But as a psychologist, I'm thinking, yeah, that makes sense. But no, the research shows that if you name the damn feeling, if you're aware of the feeling, see where it is in your body and name it, it reduces your stress response markedly. So just naming, I'm frightened, I'm embarrassed, I'm shameful, even just to yourself, reduces your stress. And I've since come to, and I've written about it in my book, I've come to know that naming something, lots of studies on that. So name the feeling. Don't sit in it or make it an excuse, but name it. You're not getting stuck in it. So again, we're still on awareness and we're looking about where you're focusing in the moment. So are you focusing, if you've got a goal, are you focusing on the gap between where you are and the goal? Like, oh my gosh, we're so far away. And that's called the gap. And that's very draining. And this is often what perfectionists do, because they're going, oh, we're not there yet. I'm not celebrating, or I can't be happy because we haven't reached the goal. But the science shows that is a sure way to drain your energy. And if you want to be rekindled, do not do this. This has been written about in an amazing book called The Gap and the Game by Dr. Benjamin Hardy and Dan Sullivan. It's a really great book, Gap of the Game. They've written lots of other books. There's actually one of their books I'm going to be doing as a free book club if anyone's interested to get in contact with me, called Be Your Future Self Now. That's going to be starting, I think, end of June. But the thing that we want you to do to re-energize yourself is to see where you are now, and we want you to look back. Now, I know this seems so weird. We don't look in the past. We're sort of being trained. Don't look back there, look ahead. But the thing is, we want you to map how far you've come. What have I achieved? What have I learnt? What did I do well? We want to measure how far you've come. And when we do that, we measure how far we come. You might think, oh yes, actually, that's a little bit like what Michelle just said about naming her strengths and naming the things that they liked today. Exactly right. Very robust. Gap in the Game. Lots of videos on YouTube. I love this concept. We are not trained to do this. We're trained to look ahead and be unhappy about where we are now. No, we go back in time. I challenge you to go back in time. We're going to do some of this in the coaching, and go back in time to 10 years ago. How far have you come? If you're lamenting, I'm in this new leadership position and I just feel so inadequate. I challenge you to think back, when did you start that role and how much have you learned since then? I was doing some supervision actually for a group of lawyers recently, because I do some work in other sectors as well. And this one guy, he's only been like a year out being a lawyer, and he's comparing himself, he's feeling inadequate. He was talking about imposter syndrome, but he was comparing himself to a guy that was 10 years ahead. I mean, really, Mission Impossible, you can't be that. So I got him to list all the different things that he'd learnt so far in a year. And his smile was ear to ear. It was gold. It was one of my, like, a favorite moment in the last, few months, which was really lovely. So do it to yourself. Check out what you've gained. So I know we've only got a short amount of time, and now we're just jumping in to embracing the new science of anti-fragility. So let's think about yourself. You are amazing. You can trust yourself. You can trust your body. Your body is intelligent by design. So just think about a muscle, right? A muscle, whenever you use it, like if you go to the gym, you're supposed to have a day off. And a muscle breaks when you put a lot of stress on it, right? But when you rest, it regenerates and gets stronger. And that's what we're designed to do. And we're designed to get stronger from stress. Think about vaccines. What happens? You put a little deactivated disease in there, virus or whatever, and we get a little bit weak to start with. We get all the little antibodies making, and we feel a little bit sick, busy trying to getting all the right good stuff for that. So it weakens us a little bit to start with. We don't get a vaccine, we've got something important to do we? But then we get stronger overall. So this is the idea of anti-fragility. This is the science behind anti-fragility. That this is the old thing of resilience. So this is resilient. I'm really strong. I'm so strong. And this is stress that comes along, and stress just bounce off us. But that's a bit of BS, isn't it? We all know this. Stress comes along and it changes us. And it changes us for the better when you do these things. And we're going to outline them right now. The first thing to do is you need to process the stress. You need to talk it through with others. You need to journal. You need to get coaching. We need to reframe what's just happened, and good self-reflection questions. We're going to be doing some of those in our coaching as well. The next thing to do is you need to have rest. Just like the muscle, you have to have a rest and a break. You need to have breaks during the day. You need to calm your mind. And also in the training, goodness, in the hour, we might have to make it longer, we're going to go through the 4 different types of rest, but I'm just going to quickly go through them now. The first one is cognitive rest. So the type of rest you need depends on the type of activity that you did that day. So if you've done lots of thinking and you've had lots of bright light and noise, like I used to have in ICU, you used to go, oh my God, I just need to go home and go into a cave. And that's exactly what you need to do for cognitive rest, is you just need to quieten all those brain waves down, because there's so many. Emotional, you need emotional rest. So if you had an emotional day, you need to do some things that are particular to rejuvenate yourself for emotional rest. The third one is physical. So if you've been physically walking all day, you actually physically need to rest your body. You need to put your feet up and watch Netflix if you like. Or you need to do some gentle exercise. And the other one is spiritual rest, and that's around moral, like your moral compass has been stretched a little bit, and you need to do things like going out into nature, even talking to somebody, praying, meditating, contemplating, because they're all the deeper value conflicts that have got you needing a real break. So that's briefly just the 4 types of rest. You also need to build a social network around you of anti-fragile people. Nothing is going to drain your batteries more than being around a big fat pack of moaners and complainers, and all they do is complain about what's happening. That is not positive. We want people to say, of course, that was hard. That was new for you. We want people to say, you can do it. With time and with energy and support, we can get this done. We want people around us that are like that. If we're the average of the 4 people we spend most time with, who you're hanging with and who you're talking to is really important. And I also want to talk about, like with anti-fragility, the idea is, as we said, is you can thrive with stress. So that means you have to walk towards stress. Now, it was really stressful for me thinking about doing this thing. It's so much easier, like doing this thing on video. It's so much easier when I've got people out there nodding at me, smiling. There's always a few of you in the room, and nod and smile and make the speaker feel fabulous and like they're on track and okay, keep going. But you've got to face your fears. You've got to walk towards them, because you've got to tell yourself, I can trust myself to handle this. And you become more anti-fragile. Remember how scary it was before you stepped up into a new role or did something new? But all of a sudden, you've got these strengths. But again, you won't recognize that they're strengths unless you pay attention to them. Again, that awareness, turning around and looking at them, looking at the gain, looking at what you've done, looking at what you've learned, and then that strengthens you. It's the foundation in which you can step forward into your life knowing, I've got this. I've done this before. I've gone through all these trials and tribulations, and I've brought this wisdom with me into this moment. Because you underestimate how many struggles you've overcome. It's astounding if you really think about it. You're smarter and you're stronger than you think. You are anti-fragile. And lastly, to be anti-fragile, you need to deactivate your stress, and we're going to talk about those. To deactivate your stress levels, we need to get you thinking from that higher mind. Remember Albert Einstein, above the VUCA world, get our thinking above this level. Now, we do that by self-reflection. Dewey was he was a researcher, and he spoke a lot about education, and he did this research with self-reflection. So we put these groups, there was 202 of them, I think they were uni students, and they did a creative online test. Then they put them into 3 groups. Now, the first group, they said, now go off and write a little note to yourself about all the things that you learned that you need to do next time, because you're going to be doing this test tomorrow. The second group got told similar, go off, write a little letter to other people who are going to be doing this test at another time, so that, because this list is going to be given to them about what to do, or what they can learn from what you just did. And the third group, control group, they got no instructions. So I think it's probably not going to be a surprise that the first 2 groups did remarkably better the second time, because they reflected. Remarkably better. So I want to encourage you greatly, reframing, thinking higher than the problem, using that as a platform of learning to be anti-fragile, so you don't break, that you do learn and grow and get stronger from stress, is really important. In my book, in chapter, I think it's chapter 9, I've also got 2 questions I call Reflect Forward. What did I like about this situation in what I did? And the second one is, if I had my time again, what would I do differently? 2 very anti-fragile questions that I invite you to use for yourself after any conversation, after any situation. If you're doing something like this, I'll be doing it with myself after this process. And it's just really, it's really great to get that brainwave going and getting you learning and getting you sitting in the gain, not the gap, because the gap is going to drain the hell out of you. And the gain is going to give you energy and rekindle that spark. We want to get you to a higher level of thinking, right? So to do that, I want to talk about walking, because I want to keep this very simple. So Steve Jobs is a renowned walker. Ernest Hemingway, renowned walker. Charles Dickens said to, I don't know, I think this is probably not true, said to walk 30 miles a day. Charles Darwin did the same. There's also been some studies with walking. So there was 4 different groups. One walked on a treadmill inside for 30 minutes. One walked outside for 30 minutes, outside in the nature. The third group, they just sat at a desk looking at a wall. And the fourth group, were wheeled in a wheelchair, even though they weren't disabled, and just wheeled outside into nature. Now, I want you to think about which ones do you think had a higher creative level of mind, lifted their mind above the environment, so they can creatively process and solve their problems, get their spark back, make great decisions, get that energy and vibe from feeling aligned. Now, most of you are probably going to say the outside group, because that's what I thought as well. Gosh, do I have any credentials? I get all these things wrong until I read the research. It's actually the walking group. Whether you're either walking on a treadmill, looking at a wall, or walking outside, walking is the thing that's helped you get to that higher level of mind. So please walk. So I'm going to talk about regulation. And to regulate yourself often is to, again, there's this awareness. It could have all been about awareness, really. And in my model, Transformational Identities, I talk about parts of you. There's all these different parts of you. It's like a little angel on your shoulder, a little devil. And I've made them into little animals. And this is like how the DNA inside you interacted with the environment for you to deal with life. So part of them are your protective personality parts, and part of them I call transformational, because they help you thrive in life, and especially in leadership, and thrive with what you want to do and rekindle your spark. So there's one part of you that I call Mama Bear. This is the part that seeks comfort, that over like too much wine, too much food, trying to push down feelings. You Mama Bear yourself. Another one is this very critical, judgmental self I call Cockatoo, and it blames itself. It has high expectations of yourself. And this, my friends, will drain your energy. I've spoken to, I feel like nearly every job in Australia, either counselling or coaching, and every single one of them has a self-blaming and a judgmental part. And I know every single one of you have the same thing happening. This is a huge drain. Another part is I call the lamb, which is an avoider, which feels like a victim and says, what's the use? And that's not good, because if you're doing that, you're actually not engaging in anything that you should be doing for yourself. The other one is called a hyena. And this is like that blaming, judgmental of other people part of yourself that says, oh, look over there at what that other person's doing, rather than taking responsibility for yourself. And if you're not taking responsibility for yourself, you're not doing your own self-care, and you're blaming the environment, this VUCA, for not being able to lift yourself up, rather than just saying, yep, I'm 100% committing to that. So these are all parts of us, and these are voices in our head that stop us from doing the care that you know that you need to do. So the part that does take responsibility, that sits in commitment, has really good boundaries for yourself, is I call lion, the lion part. And you can learn some more about that in my book. I want you to think about when in any moment you're either filling your bucket with energy, or you've got holes in your bucket and you're draining your energy. Now, the things that are filling your bucket, which is the awareness stuff, that's all stuff in the gain, it's doing all the things that you love to do, and sleep and eat and all that, and laughing, time with friends. And you know all that stuff, it's self-care. But the holes in the bucket, you probably don't understand so much. The holes in the bucket are thoughts, they're feelings, they're the self-judgment. It's the feeling of the time pressure, that there's too many actions to do, or I'm not good enough, or I haven't done that well. It's lots of interruptions. That can be holes in your bucket. Your expectations, other people's expectations, noises, lights, smell, bad food, sugar, all that sort of stuff, or anything that's not aligned with your actions is draining the hole in your bucket. You need to think about, how can I plug the holes in my bucket to get that spark back, to get your energy, because you will feel drained. Even just the thought that I'm not good enough, or I can't do this, or it's too big for me, or I'm useless, I'm hopeless, I'm a loser, that is enough to just drain every motivated cell in your body. Now, on your bit of paper, you've got a QR code, and it's for your thinking styles. This is for you to download a cognitive distortions. I do this with a lot of my clients. It's really great. Get to know where you're draining your energy. The last one that I do want to talk about is breathing. Breathing is so important. You need to slow your breath down. You can either do it with box breathing. You can do it with just mindfulness, mindful breathing. You can do it just pretending you're like focusing on your heart, breathing in and out of your heart. Pick your favorite thing, but breathing does work. It really, really does. Take micro moments during the day. And just before we conclude, I want to talk about self-kindness and self-compassion. So I invite you all to put your hand on your heart right now with me. Don't leave me standing here on my own. So what I'd like you to do is feel the warmth coming from your hand. You're a mammal, and we love feeling touch. Even if you're not a touchy person, you will like it. Some people, if you don't, put your hands here or put your hand on your leg. But I want you to tell yourself, it's like the hand is telling you, I'm here with you. I see everything that you go through. I feel your pain. I know how hard you try. I see how hard you try. And I'm giving you this warmth and compassion and understanding because I know you're doing your best. And I want you, as the body that is being touched, to accept that self-kindness and that compassion. And to stop accepting the voices in your mind that are telling you you're not enough. I want you to be like Gandalf, you know, when he's standing on the edge. Ye shall not pass. I want you to be like that with the thoughts that are coming in your head. Because there's one thing to be bullied, but there's another thing to let yourself bully yourself. And that is a huge drain. In closing, I think the most important thing to remember is you need to elevate your thinking. You need to notice what you're noticing and where you're focusing to shift yourself above the environment, above the everyday, above what everybody expects, a call to higher duties, and that's the important thing. Now, you've got the desire because you've been sitting here for 45 minutes listening to me, and I'm hoping that in the last little bit of time, I've given you the belief that inherent in the system, you are strong enough, if you trust yourself, to do a number of those things, to be anti-fragile, to keep your energy high, and to stay motivated and stay connected. But we also know that belief and desire are not enough. We need commitment. And all those gym memberships that are laying dormant are a testimony to commitment being really important. There's an African saying that says that a spider's web can become a steel chain, but it needs repetition. So repetition for you is all those little micro moments when you're focusing on the gain, you're noticing what you're noticing, you're deactivating yourself to think out of your higher mind. But the thing is, you can't do it alone. Connect with an accountability buddy today. Be real, name your feelings, get connected at that deeper level, and come along to the coaching. Because what I do know is it's not the successful. To be successful, it's not the smartest people or the most talented that do really well. What it is the people who do the small things every day. Good luck and thank you. Thank you.